What's going on, everybody? This is Afro Think Tank. Now, we have a lot of uneducated, unknowledgeable, unschooled black people who call themselves FBA, who constantly make content regurgitating untruths about Africa and its relationship with African Americans. They say things like, oh, why didn't the Africans come and try to save us, right? Not taking consideration that Africans were being colonized while we were being enslaved. They prove from their rhetoric that they don't know anything about history, and they're not qualified to even be speaking on the topic. And the research that they do is the research of their emotions that they feel, because they get themselves gaslit by other people on YouTube who also teach them mistruths and half-truths and propaganda. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this video here where a young black lady is going to explain to you exactly when Africans and how Africans, when given the opportunity, helped African Americans. Also, Caribbeans also helped African Americans. Also, African Americans, especially down south, are mostly Caribbean and African American mix. Why? Because a lot of Haitians moved to the Americas. A lot of those Floridian boys are by way of Haiti. And a lot of those people in the south are by way of the Caribbean. But it's just that these uneducated people who call themselves FBA, they don't know anything because they didn't go to school and pay attention in class. They listen to charlatans and grifters who tell them what they want to hear to make them feel good because maybe somebody made fun of them once. And so because they have arrested development and they're still got a childlike mind, even though most of these people are in their 50s, 60s, and you got some young idiots, right, who's in their 20s and their 30s and their 40s. You know, it's just a lot of misinformation. That's why I'm here, to give you the information that you need. Once you get the information and you see the information, you can't unsee it. All right. So anyway, without further ado, let's listen to this information to continue to debunk the ignorance minority among us called FBA. Anyway, that's all I got to say. It's Afro Think Tank. Learn something, teach something. I'm out.
What is amazing and quite fucking annoying about the conversation about continental Africans not liking African Americans is the fact that African countries in the course of maybe like the last 300 fucking years have sent so much aid and help and support to the African Americans here in this country today. And I'm going to give you a list of them. Please keep in mind, some of these countries, the aid that they sent was denied by our own government. Without putting them in any order, I'm going to start with Liberia. In the 60s and 70s during the Civil Rights Movement, Liberia opened their doors with no hesitation to African Americans that was tired of the bullshit. Next, we can talk about Ghana, when in the late 1950s, early 1960s, during the Civil Rights Movement, their first president, Kwame, opened Ghana up completely to African American citizens. Not only did they offer moral support, but they also offered financial support. And as far as the moral support, they were openly condemning the treatment of black people in this country, all the way over there in their own country. Next, we can talk about Nigeria. They offered financial support and they opened their doors to African Americans during the Civil Rights Movement. They created something called the non-alignment movement, and this non-alignment movement condemned openly, like with no hesitation, the treatment of black people. And beyond that, they offered diplomatic aid, financial aid, and moral aid. Next, we could talk about Egypt. Please also keep in mind the countries I've mentioned and the ones I'm going to mention still, part of their aid was also offering sanctuary to the threats to American society. People like Stokely Carmichael, Assata Shakur, and a lot of other people. But anyway, let's talk about Egypt. During the Civil Rights Movement, Egypt offered financial support and asylum to any civil rights leader or any civil rights protester. Not to mention, they also openly condemned the mistreatment of black people in this country. I know I ain't got to mention it, but South Africa, we're going to talk about it. Nelson Mandela and the anti-apartheid movement did wonders when it came to connecting us to our motherland. If it wasn't for Nelson Mandela and the African National Congress, Africa probably would have never even known what the fuck was going on over here. It goes without saying, they were also openly condemning the mistreatment of black people in America, all the way over there. Next, we got Tanzania, who in the 1960s offered aid and support to any black intellectuals and civil rights leaders and protesters. When I say protesters, I mean civil rights activists. Anybody that would be considered an activist. If you was out there marching, you're welcome. Sierra Leone goes without saying as well, but we're going to talk about it. Now, when it comes to Sierra Leone, this is actually one of the instances where our own government gave the aid back. Didn't tell us shit. But Sierra Leone did offer resettlement to African Americans, and they openly did that because when they offered that to the government and it came back to them, it was like, okay, we just gonna make it known. And they did just that. Also, keep in mind, when I say that these countries offered relocation and resettlement, they were willing to pay for some of these things. Next, we could talk about Ethiopia. Now, Ethiopia was one of the first African nations to actually stand up against what was happening to Black Americans once they found out what the fuck we were going through. They aligned more with the Black nationalist movement with people like Marcus Garvey. Not to mention, they also supported any Pan-African activists, and they offered resettlement to anyone that was a Pan-African. Next, we can talk about Senegal. Senegal, during the Civil Rights Movement, also opened their doors to African Americans. Also, not to mention, when they sent cloth and materials to the NAACP, it was intercepted and sent back to Senegal. Now we can go into the countries with rejected offers. Shortly after the Haitian Revolution, Haiti opened its doors to African Americans to have somewhere close to call home. But of course, that didn't make it up here to the mainland. And if it did, it was suppressed. Just like Ghana's offer. Just like Liberia's offer. Not to mention, these countries were willing to pay for the relocation. They were willing to work with our government, pay the larger end of the relocation of these millions of people. But you see, the thing about this conversation is a lot of people don't think about that. Whenever you hear people say, oh, Africans don't like African Americans, very, very shallow, very vague. Because if you ask them to explain, they're just going to say, oh, well, my African friend said they don't really fuck with us. Girl, touch some grass. But what people don't understand is when you say that, think that, believe that, and live that, you're playing right into our opposition's game. How are we supposed to have solidarity amongst ourselves when we are denying our entire lineage? It's okay to be African American. It's okay to be Black. That's fine. Because I'm not just African. I'm also not just American. I'm African American. And there's a reason that I proudly say that African part, because we cannot forget that. We can't allow them to force us to cut our own ties with our people. That's what we not gonna do. We know way too much. We're too educated. It's too many resources out here for us to still be doing this shit. So before you say that, just know Africa has always been there for us. They have always been there for us. There has always been a connection. They don't want us to know that, but you need to know that.
Free Sudan! Boycott diamonds and gold! Free Sudan! Boycott diamonds and gold! We most definitely cannot forget about the people of Sudan.
Thanks for watching Afro Think Tank. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And follow me on Substack and Patreon for more content. Remember, it's Pan-Africanism or nothing.